Hi folks, Bryant here with the Open Range. We are on, I believe, episode 12 now, and the last episode was about accountability and how it's important for people to remain accountable for the things that they do and say. I think that's very important, and I think it's a little bit lacking in today's society. People tend to pass the blame on to others instead of taking it upon themselves if they make a mistake or something like that. For whatever reason they do it, it's good to be accountable. So look at that episode. It was a pretty good one. Leave me your thoughts on that on the comments on Facebook or on YouTube here. Today we're going to talk about traveling, and I'm going to talk about my views on traveling and kind of some of the places that I've traveled and what I've learned from doing that, and what I think about going to new places. I really enjoy traveling. I think it's good. So let's talk about it. So when you travel, you can travel to a different town, you can travel to a different part of town, you can travel to a different county, to a different state, to a different time zone, to a different country, to a different part of the world. Maybe soon we will be able to travel to other planets. Something like that might happen in the future, which would be pretty neat. I think that'd be very interesting. I think travel is important. I think traveling, for whatever reason you are, getting to experience something new, something that's different from what you are used to and the environment you're used to being in, I think is very valuable. I think that there's no better way to learn than experience, and firsthand experience is the best way to do that. So I've been very fortunate to have been able to travel some places, not as many as others and more than some. And I've also interacted with people who have never traveled, and I find it interesting to talk to people, find out why they don't travel or why they haven't, or if they would like to and where they would want to go. And for people that have traveled, what they've learned, what they've seen, what they've experienced, where else they would like to go, where places they've gone that they wouldn't go back, things like that. So it's very interesting. When I was younger, we would travel to Mexico, about 8 or 9 hours south of the border in South Texas, and go camping. This was a once a year thing. Every Labor Day weekend there was a father-son group down in Brownsville, where I'm from, that would get together, and we would all drive down and go camping down in northern central Mexico, on the other side of the mountains from Monterrey, around Potosi and China and Linares and all those areas down in there. Man, it is amazing country. Unfortunately, I probably won't make that trip ever again, just because of the state of mainland Mexico. It's unfortunate that most of your trouble seems to be along the border, and that can cause people some difficulties when they do travel. And we'll talk about some of that here in a minute. But those places that I was able to visit as a child, when I was from, about 7 or 8 years old until I was probably 13 or so, in those years there, going down there, visiting with locals, seeing people that lived differently than I did, learning about their culture, experiencing their culture firsthand, and the food. Oh God, the food. I love Mexico. I think it is an incredible country. I wish that it wasn't wrought with trouble so much, because I think that for the most of the Mexican people aren't involved in that kind of stuff, and they're very proud of their country, and they want to show it to people. They're very welcoming. We never had any problems when we were down there in those times. Again, this was 20 plus years ago, which makes me feel old, being able to say that I did something 20 years ago. But yeah, that's about when it was, 20 plus years ago, 20 to 25 years ago. it's an amazing country, and it's amazing to get to go and experience something like that and see those places. I was able to. There was a place called Tamasopo, where pretty much anywhere in that area, you were a mile or two away from a waterfall of some kind. It's unbelievable the things that exist outside of where you grow up and where you're raised. There's wonders everywhere, and it's amazing to go visit them. And the food is awesome. Fortunately, I've been able to continue my travels to Mexico in the last 3 or 4 years by going to Baja every year. I find that Baja has similarities in that it is Mexico, and a lot of the things are the same, like the construction style of the buildings and things like that, the culture of the people, the welcomeness of the people, but it doesn't seem to be quite as dangerous in Baja. I hope that doesn't change. Baja is such a magical place from the rest of Mexico. I think it is incredible, starting in TJ and working your way all the way down to Cabo. It's amazing the differences in that about 1,200 miles that you come across. You come across deserts and forests and coastline that you can't even describe with words, and the water turns different colors, and it's clear, and there's whales, and there's seals, and there's eagles, and there's horses, and there's big cats, and there's cattle, and there's wild animals of all sorts, and bears, and I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing place. It will be somewhere that I will go every single year until I'm financially or physically unable to. And the culture they have with off-road racing is second to none. I mean, there is nowhere in the world that an entire peninsula of that size is immersed in the culture of off-roading and supports it in the way that they do. And I hope that we as Americans and we as travelers that visit there are able to be respectful to their country for that and appreciate them for that, because it may not always be there, and we don't want to take advantage of it, but we want to utilize it and also be able to support the locals and support the area and do things in a manner of sustainability so that we can continue going back. That should be done anywhere and every time you go somewhere. So Mexico, that's awesome. I've traveled there a bunch. I love it. I love the entire country. I love pretty much everything about it except for the ridiculous violence that's occurred in the last 10 or 12 years because of the drug trade, unfortunately. I think that's quite unfortunate, and I wish that we were able to do something a little more effective about that, but I don't have any ideas on how to fix that, really. So, moving on to some other places that I've traveled. I've been fortunate to go to Canada. I haven't spent much time in Canada, but I do want to go back. That's where our race truck that we bought is from. It's from Canada, so we drove up there to get it in November, and it was cold. Not the coldest I've been, but it was pretty cold, but I didn't care because I was picking up a race car, and who cares what the temperature is outside when you're picking up a race car? It really doesn't matter. I was in Calgary in Alberta, and I thought it was pretty awesome there. It seemed to be the Texas of Canada, so to speak. I'd like to go back and spend more time to visit and see the sights and see some things that happen there. I would like to travel across other parts of Canada as well and visit those areas. I think I saw Canada some once from New York or somewhere in that up in the east, but didn't really visit. Let's see, continuing on internationally, when I was in high school, I was fortunate to have an opportunity to go to Spain and spent almost 2 weeks, maybe a little more than 2 weeks in Spain, traveling from Madrid down and then up the coast, and we ended in Barcelona. That was awesome. I really enjoy going to new places and learning about the culture and seeing the architecture and seeing the way that people do things there, because it helps you learn. It helps you develop yourself as an individual by immersing yourself in other cultures and seeing seeing things from a different point of view. I think that's important to use as a learning tool so that you can become a more compassionate person and a more observant person and a more thankful person for what you have and what you're trying to build and what you're trying to earn and things like that. And we're here on this whole world, so let's go see it and take care of it and be a part of it. That's amazing. I think that having those opportunities, anytime you do have an opportunity to go somewhere, do it. Go wherever it is that you have a chance to go for as long as you can. Do it. Don't ever pass up an opportunity to go somewhere else. If it makes you uncomfortable or not, it doesn't matter. So around the United States, I've been along the East Coast. When I was a kid, we took a long family summer trip all the way up to Maine, to Bahaba in Maine, where the sun rises at 4:30 in the morning and rush hours at 5, and that is entirely too early for anything to be happening, especially waking up to go hiking up a mountain to pick blueberries. I think it was part of the northern part of the Appalachian Trail. We went and visited. We saw Boston and saw some of the fire departments there in Boston. I remember that specifically because I got a t-shirt. I went there and did that, and I did get the t-shirt, things like that. And then I've got some family in towards that area, so I've visited them in the past as well. And then moving out west, right after high school, I moved to Laramie, Wyoming. It was about 2,000 miles away from my home, and that's where I went to college. Didn't really know anybody there. I think there was one other guy there that I knew, and outside of that, I didn't know anybody. And I am very thankful for that opportunity to go and visit someplace like that and live there and learn how to be on my own like that. And I'm very thankful that I didn't freeze to death and die in the Powder River Basin there up in Laramie, Wyoming, where the wind blows 600 miles an hour and the wind chill is numbers that I thought were impossible. When your thermometer numbers are getting larger, but that means it's actually getting colder because they're negative numbers, I think something is really wrong with that, and we should look into that. So one of the coldest times I ever experienced there was a November. It was minus 28, and with the wind chill it was minus 52. I'm from the beach, man. That's ridiculous. That was something else. But it was there that I experienced my first culture shock, growing up in South Texas and then moving to Wyoming. I had honestly never seen so many white people in one place in my life. I thought that was interesting. And then talking to people that were from up there, I noticed that there were a lot of people from that area that had never traveled. They'd never left their own county, and their county was not very big. And I don't know that they ever would. And I don't really understand that, aside from being uncomfortable about it, about traveling, or not having an interest in learning like that or experiencing that. That's fine. Not everybody's the same. I mean, you do you and I'll do me, and that's fine. But I think it is good for you and for people to be uncomfortable and go places that are new to you and see things that are different, that you might question some of the things in your own life, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't be afraid of questions and finding answers to those questions and growing. If it grows you apart from the direction you thought you might go, but it's in a positive direction, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not. And it shouldn't be something that people are afraid of. They should embrace that uncomfortable feeling. Now, I'm not saying go places that are inherently dangerous and that you know you're going to run into trouble, or you go looking for trouble. I'm not condoning that at all. I'm saying, but going somewhere where they don't speak the same language as you, or you don't know your way around, or you don't understand the cultures and things like that, you'll find that if you are willing to learn about the culture and the food and the language and things like that, that there are people around in those areas where you travel to that are more than happy to teach you about themselves, because they have pride. Everyone has pride in where they're from, to some degree, and when someone shows up with a willingness to learn about that and to experience it, I think it's incredible. I much prefer going to, whether it's a new town in the U.S. or in Texas or in the county or wherever I am, or even in the town in which I live. I always enjoy trying to find places that are not the tourist spots. I like to go, especially restaurants. I love going to local joint restaurants. They may be a little sketchy, it may be this or that or whatever. It's hard to find, hard to get to, strange hours, whatever. Take me there. If I come to visit, or if you get a chance to come visit, I'll take you to some places, and let's go explore where we are and see the things that most people don't see, or most people don't there's a word for that I can't remember. Anyway, go find those places that are different and unusual, and check them out and see what they are, especially the restaurants. Usually the hole-in-the-wall restaurants will be the best you've ever had. For example, when we were in Mexico, when I was a young boy, we drove to this town, and I cannot remember what town it was, and we started walking through the town square and through the alleyways between the buildings. And what they had done in this area is, in the alleys, in the corners of the buildings, they knocked out the corners and they put extra shops and little places to eat and things like that. And I had the best hamburger. I don't know if it was beef or not, I don't really care, but it was the best hamburger I've ever had in my entire life. Was in this little town in a back alley in the knocked out corner of a building in Mexico. They fried a slice of ham and put that on top. Oh my God, it was so good. So good. All the food I've had in Mexico has been fantastic. I love it. Tacos especially. Can't ever go to Mexico and not have tacos. That's the best. There were places where we had raw sugarcane, liquid syrup, I guess you would call it, where from crushed sugarcane they squeezed the syrup out of it and you could drink it, and it was super sweet and amazing. Fruit, fresh fruit, things like that. But like I said, the places where the tourists don't go, especially restaurants, those are the restaurants that you should seek out and find. And people are oftentimes happy to show you. If they can, So those are some of the places I've been. I've been west to California. I haven't been able to spend a whole lot of time there, but I've been able to visit friends. And in off-road racing, I've made more and more friends that are from out west, and I hope to have more time to slow down when I'm traveling through there and hang out with some of them. I've made it up to Jackson Hole twice. Have I done that? Twice, maybe only once. I may have only been once, but to see the Tetons and that area, and it's incredible. Some places that I would like to travel, if the opportunity came up to go into outer space, I'd like to do that and see that for myself. I think that would be the absolute ultimate travel adventure. I would like to see the Grand Canyon. I don't think I've ever been there. I would like to see Mount Rushmore. I would like to go to I think it's called the 7 colored mountains, or 7 colored sands, or seven colored mountains, or something like that, in Peru, where the geology is just these incredibly different colors of layers through the geology of that whole area. That's awesome, man. I've seen pictures and it's amazing. I would like to go to Australia and visit there. I have some friends there that race off-road. Any chance I can go somewhere and experience their car culture is something that I would like to do. Cars and food, that's what I like. I've got a YouTube program that I'm working on developing that will highlight that. I think those are two things that can define a culture and an area, what they eat and what they drive and how they do it. I would like to go, there's not really anywhere that I don't want to go. Seeing pictures of places in the Middle East, I think it would be interesting to visit. But again, travel knowing that there are some places that you should not go and that are dangerous, and keep that in mind when you travel, and stay safe. But go to places. If there's somewhere that you've ever wanted to go, like I'd like to go see Stonehenge and Loch Ness and talk to people in the local pubs there about old Nessie and see what they say, the locals, not what you see on TV and these ghost hunter shows and all that kind of junk. I actually want to do firsthand experience what these people have to say and listen to the way they talk and see how they view the world and the places that they've been and traveled to. I think it's incredible that in Europe you're able to travel to all these different countries that are very diverse in what for us as Texans would be a full day's trip to get across our state and still be within our state borders. These people in other parts of the world are able to travel to 7, 8, 9, 10, 5 to 10 different countries. That's amazing. That's amazing. I want to go do that and see that. I think that would be cool. There's castles and there's mountains and forests and rivers and waterfalls and open views and vistas and things like that all over the world, and volcanoes and all kinds of exciting stuff to see. So again, to kind of sum this whole thing up, I really appreciate traveling for what you're able to learn and the things you're able to experience, the culture, the people, the food, the language. I think it will enrich your life. I think it's good for you to travel and for everyone to travel and see things that make them uncomfortable or places that are different from where they grew up. I think that there's nothing wrong with learning from that, and if it helps you develop a better view of your world and what you have and what you're thankful for, and appreciate other parts of the world and their influences and things that drive those people to operate in the way that they do, that's not bad. It's never bad. So learning is never bad. Schoolhouse Rock, it's great to learn because knowledge is power. That's true. And the best way to learn is through experience. So that's my little talk on travel. Tell me about where you've been, where you would like to go. Let's go on a trip sometime. I like to travel with different people and go see different things and visit people and where they're from and their areas, and they can show me all around, and we can go have a good time and show me where to eat. So let's travel, let's eat, let's have a good time. Get out there and do something. Go do something. Thanks for watching The Open Range. Remember to like, share, subscribe. We have open discussion about a wide range of topics. Saturdays and Wednesdays is when I try to post these things. So I appreciate you following along. I appreciate your support. Get out there and travel. Go somewhere.